For today's tutorial, we are making this cute little turkey gnome. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy he is to make. Alright, I thought I'd start out today by showing you where the pieces are on the mat so that you don't miss a couple of little tiny ones. So we have our feather unit for the back of our gnome. There's only 2 of those. 4 back pieces to the gnome, 3 hats, 3 little tiny pieces that will form the wattle for our gnome because he's a turkey. We have 3 beards. We have 3 right arms and 3, 2, 3. For some reason I have 4 of one. I'll correct that on the pattern. There's only 3 right arms and 3 left arms, and then 2 of each sleeve. There will be 6 shoes and 3 noses. So let me get these off the mat and onto my work table, and then we will go from there. All right, I got started gluing and I thought I was recording until I stopped to turn the camera off to stop recording and figured out that I had actually not recorded any of the parts that I thought I had. So let's start over. I've already glued these pieces together. This is the wattle. If it's too tiny for you to glue together, you can skip it and you can paint it on later. And on that one, don't worry about lining it up. Just do the best you can. So let's talk about the pattern. The pattern is free for you to download. You can use it as many times as you want. You can sell the finished gnomes. You can give the gnomes away. Whatever you want to do with that, but just please don't give away my pattern or sell my pattern. The pattern is available as a free download on the blog post that goes with this video. Link is in the description box below the video. I cut mine out of white medium weight cardstock. I'll go to the blog post for more information about the pattern. It's the same as every time. It's pretty similar. So all the do's and don'ts will be in the blog post. The gist is, don't sell my pattern, but you can sell as many of these as you want, and it's done with medium white cardstock so that we can paint it to the colors we want. It's glued with tacky glue so that it will stay together, and then we will paint it. So after I get these all glued together, I am going to put a weight on them, and then I'm going to allow them to dry. They need to be completely dry before we go on to our next step, which will be painting. So I'm going to put a weight on this for the first part of the drying process just to make sure it stays flat. Then I will take the weight off and let it finish drying. Once it's completely dry, I will come back with these down on a piece of tape and we can start painting. So I'll see you then. All right, I have these down on sticky tape. They actually dried overnight, so I know the cardstock is all the way dry. It's like I think I mentioned yesterday, if it's not and you put it on this tape, when you peel it up, a lot of times it will tear. I'm not going to put wax paper under these today because I don't have another project going on, so I'm just going to paint them the way they are. So let's start painting. I won't make you watch. Well, we'll see. We might do all of them on camera, we might not. Got white for the beard. The first piece we have here is our beard. And I'm going to use, and this is just white craft paint. The paints will be, I'll show the paints with the pieces on the blog post. So be sure to go over there if you want to see what colors I used. Of course, you don't have to use the same colors I do. You can use whatever colors you want. Excuse me. And I have, next is the hat and the 2 shoes. I'm going to take some black. And I'm going to paint these. And figuring out the colors it's part of the fun of doing these, is what color do I want to use today? A lot of times I'll do a Google image search for whatever I'm making and see what colors they are online. So I'm going to take just a little bit of black with this brush. And then with the brush I've got the white on, I'm going to blend that in. Just so the beard is not a stark white, it's a little grayed. I was almost tempted to make him have orange hair. I saw several of these turkey gnomes that had orange beards on them, but I decided to stick with this color. Now we have our little tiny wattle here, but we're going to use the red paint for 2 spots. I'm going to get a pretty small brush. And I don't know if I mentioned in the part where I was gluing these together, if you feel this is just too small to paint and cut out and glue together and paint, you could always paint that part on once you start gluing the gnome together. And I'm going to do, yeah, the feathers are underneath the camera. So you don't have to go all the way to the middle on this. Do the top one on each side. These are supposed to be like leaves or feathers. This piece took me longer to design than the whole rest of the gnome. And you'll notice if you've been following my gnomes for a while, I did change up what a little bit of the a few of the shapes. We've got a little bit like we've got different arms. We're putting him together a little differently. Now these are, in fact, the arms and the nose. And you can tell the arms from the sleeves because the arms are slightly longer and they've got a rounded piece at the bottom. I still have not managed to get any flesh-colored paint, so I'm mixing my own from a pale pink and a pale yellow. I'll have those on the blog post. We're going to paint the whole arm and then we're going to redo the sides under the sleeves after we get those parts glued together. I will cover this just in case I need to do a second coat on that. Now, I have some brown. I am going to need to get some of that out because this is going to be, and this is just a burnt umber. Like I said, all the colors will be on the blog post. And we're going to do the sleeves and his body. And it doesn't really take very long to do the painting. It's a pretty quick process. Once the paint dries, you can go through and make sure you've got all the edges to make sure those are all covered. All right, that's done. And now the rest of the feathers, these colors. I have an orange. This is terracotta. Just on this one, be really careful you don't contaminate the paint in the lid of your paint jar if you're being lazy like I am and using the paint straight out of the paint jar lid. But it's just quicker. And don't worry about this center part. It's going to be completely covered when we assemble him. And now some yellow for those bottom feathers / leaves. All right, I am going to let this paint dry completely because we are going to, I'll let it dry completely and then check to see if I need to do a second coat, but I need it dry, all the way dry before I come back and we start assembly because I have found that glue sometimes reactivates paint if it's not completely cured. So when this is all ready to go, I'll come back and we can start the assembly process. All right, my paint is dry enough that I can work now, and I have kind of loosened these up. What we're going to do is glue the sleeves onto the arms. And really on the sleeves, the only edge that you have to make sure is painted is this bottom straight edge. So I'm going to get a toothpick. I'm going to coat the back of this with some tacky glue. I'm going to line it up. Are we? Yeah, we are under camera. Line it up as best I can. And it's okay if it's not perfect because we are going to repaint the edges and make sure that this all is covered up where the arm is. Kind of line up the top part. They're actually created from the same initial piece, so they should go together pretty easily. Make sure you have a left and a right, because you don't want your gnome to be one-armed. But I thought it would be kind of fun to do one that isn't holding something this month, since there's quite a bit going on with that tail. And line that up. And let that glue dry, because once that's dry, then we can put the brown paint on it. So I'll be back when that glue dries. All right, now that the glue has dried, I'm going to pick up these little arms. I've got the brown paint I used earlier and a nice clean brush. And now, just where the sleeve is, we're going to go ahead and paint this edge, trying to keep it from getting on the little hand and trying to be even with the sleeve at the bottom. Okay, and this one I got some glue on the front, so I'll go ahead and give it another coat of paint over that. So I'm going to finish painting this, this edge on this sleeve. I'll go ahead and give the front one. And then when this glue is dry, we can start assembling. So I'll be right back. All right, that glue is dried, so now I'm going to pick this up, untaped it from the thing, and I'm just going to move it over there out of the way. But first, let's get off the main body. And even though this was dry, it still peeled a little, but that's okay. It would have peeled worse had it not been dry. That was better. All right, I'll put that over to the side. Now we're going to put the beard on, and then I'm going to get the shoes and put them on. So what the beard is designed for is to be centered side to side, and the tip of the beard no lower than the bottom of the body. Spread glue on the back, and it's okay if a little bit of glue kind of squeezes out, kind of gets out from under your pieces. Just don't leave any lumps, but a little bit won't matter because we are going to put a coat of Mod Podge on this later. Now this gnome is sized a little bit differently than some of our other gnomes. I made him a little bit smaller because of the big tail. Right, now we're going to get the shoes. Be sure that when you put the shoes on, you put the flat side to the bottom, and again they line up with the bottom of the body. A little bit of glue. Line these little guys up. And this time the shoes do go a little bit past the edge of the body. I thought that was kind of cute this time. Trying to change them up just a little bit. I'm going to make sure that these are lined up exactly how I want them. And then I want this glue to dry enough that these pieces won't move when we handle him to put the next pieces on. So I'm going to let this glue set up, and then I'll be back. All right, the glue is set up enough that this is not going to go anywhere. So now we're going to kind of position the hat first. I'm going to want it to be right there. Now the thing to remember about the hat, it only touches here where the beard is, which will be the very edge, and then the tip of the body. The whole spot in between doesn't touch, so there's no reason to put glue there. Usually what I do is I put some glue here, because I know that's a spot that's going to touch, and I put some glue here. And the hat is a little narrower, so his shoulders might show a little bit. That's okay. and try to get the hat centered. Then we're going to put on the nose. The nose should fit pretty well because of the fact, and put a little glue past the nose too, so that you'll have a place to put the wattle. The nose should fit pretty well because I actually used the nose piece originally to cut out that divot in the hat for the nose to go into. It goes there. Now make sure I need a little more glue here. And this is one of those spots, if you don't think you can do the wattle, go ahead and leave it. Don't worry about gluing it together and painting it. Go ahead and paint it. Once this glue dries, go in with some red paint and paint it. Come on. And now we're going to put his arms on. Oops. Come on. I'm just going to go right there. You can overlap the beard or not, it's up to you. I'm not sure how much of this is going to touch, so I'm going to coat most of the back with glue. And you can angle his arms however you want. Just be sure that the elbow is going away from the body. See, I think I'm going to put it right there. There. I think I like that. Okay. Let me know what you think about these arms. I couldn't figure out anything to have him holding, and I saw a couple of gnomes online that had arms hanging down. I thought, well, we'll give that a shot this month. All right. Them angled the way you want them. And let the glue dry. And when that glue's dry, we can add his tail behind him. So I'll be back when this dries. All right, my glue is dry. So now I'm going to kind of figure out about where I want my little gnome to sit. And you can put your gnome as far up or down, just so none of the feathers are below the base on the gnome. Because if these stick down below the flat bottom, he won't stand up. And then put mine up just a bit. Doing my best to get him kind of centered. And now once that dries, we can add a coat of Mod Podge. Make sure you have not glued him to your table. And so I'm going to let this dry, and when it's dry, I'll come back and we can put a finish coat on him. All right, my glue has completely dried, and you want to make sure your glue is all the way dry, because if it's not completely dry and you put Mod Podge or another sealer over it, it will stay cloudy. If your glue hasn't dried to a clear state, it could stay cloudy underneath your finish. So I'm just using some satin Mod Podge. Since I know everything is dry, I'm going to just dip into my container today. I'm being lazy. I'm kind of in a hurry. I got to get this done. Now I'm going to put a thin, even coat on the front, making sure I hit the edges. And then off camera, after this front dries, I will do a thin, even coat on the back side, hitting the edges again. Not only does that help to seal the edges better, but I find that the whole piece is much stronger if I do both the front and the back with the clear finish. Now, was something I was going to talk to you about a couple of projects ago, and I forgot, was that if you are making any of these little things made out of paper for sale, I would recommend paint the back. Whether you paint it with white or you paint it with one of the colors, paint the whole back carefully so it doesn't come around the front, but paint it so that it looks a little more finished, and be sure and sign your work. That's always important. So once this is dry, I will meet you over at the dollhouse and we'll see how our turkey gnome looks on the front porch. Well, I have moved the gnome over onto the front porch of the dollhouse along with some of the other fall items we've made in previous tutorials. I think he looks really cute over here. I hope you do too. Be sure and check the blog post for photos, the link to the free downloadable pattern, and more information. If you enjoyed my video, be sure and hit the like button. Leave me a comment. What kinds of things would you like to see in future videos? If you enjoy my content and haven't subscribed, I encourage you. Hit that subscription button and the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching today, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.